PQ and the Bloc seem to be taking this opportunity not just to throw the niqab under the truck, they're trying to also get the Kirpan in now. We were there to talk about the niqab and freedom of religion in general.
That's Balpreet Singh from the World Sikh Organization of Canada. He was on the show yesterday. He was denied entry into the Quebec legislature because he was wearing a kirpan. That's the ceremonial dagger Sikhs wear. Now, as he mentioned, the Bloc Québécois says perhaps it's time that the Parliament of Canada adopts similar rules, and they plan on bringing it up when the House returns at the end of this month, raising the question, should the kirpan be considered a weapon or a harmless religious symbol? Toronto television host and author Michael Coren. I've also got the founder of the Muslim Canadian Congress, Tarek Fattah. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Indeed, this Kirpan kerfuffle, as it were, is starting to grow across Canada and certainly in Quebec. There's a lot of response to the Bloc Québécois statement that they plan to introduce a motion to ban the Kirpan from Parliament, where it's currently allowed under certain conditions based on how long it is and how it's worn, and that you tell security that you're wearing one. And by the way, the Ontario Liberal MP Navdeep Bains just spoke to CBC News this afternoon. Here's what he had to say about the Kirpan.
The Kirpan is not a weapon, and that, it has to be properly secured, and if there's security concerns, the onus is on the institution to determine what those concerns are. So I'm wondering why the Quebec legislator has raised this as an issue when this is not a considered security concern in the House of Commons. I've worn my Kirpan to the U.S. Congress, to the Supreme Court. So why all of a sudden is this an issue? Why is the Bloc politicizing this issue? And if they have concerns, they should have brought that forward in a reasonable manner. We don't need to elevate the political rhetoric on this. We need to take a deep breath and say, hold on, what are the concerns? Let's have a rational debate, and that's the Canadian way.
Tarek Fattah, he says this is the Canadian way and that anything, a pencil or a pen could be used as a weapon. What's your reaction to all this?
Well, it's a bit disingenuous of him to say it's not a weapon, because the Kirpan was initially a weapon of defense by Sikhs who were being slaughtered by Muslim armies. In the 15th century, there was every justification. I would have supported it because they were being slaughtered by the Mughal army, and the gurus said you have to indulge in self-defense rather than submit. But I have news for them. This war has long been over, and there is no conflict between Muslims and Sikhs that require that someone wear it in Parliament. And if this was something that could be worn to Parliament, the Indian House of Commons, the Lok Sabha, does not permit any of its legislators to enter Parliament wearing it, and India's Prime Minister is a Sikh. So I think that...
Sorry, Tarek Fattah, with all due respect, Navdeep Bains has told us he's worn his Kirpan in the Indian Parliament, and the Prime Minister of India is Sikh. So he contradicts.
Yes,
he says if it's allowed there, what's the problem?
No, they must have treated him with generosity and hospitality. There is an Indian member of Parliament who's been sitting outside the Lok Sabha for many years. It's not allowed. The fact is that if this is a ceremonial dagger, then just make it out of sponge or rubber, and I would have no problem. To suggest that a metallic object is symbolic, it denies the history of this weapon, and I don't think there's any place for it at any place.
I mean, the history is not really the issue. Anachronistic, yes, but many, maybe even most religious symbols are anachronistic. That isn't the issue here. When Sikhs were dying in the First World War in France and Belgium for a conflict they probably knew nothing about, when we asked them to die for the Empire, for our cause in the Second World War in North Africa, then we weren't asking too many questions. Hold on one moment. This community is singled out, rather. When Sikh men were willing to put their lives on the line as RCMP officers, but wanted to wear the turban, looking incredibly smart, by the way, some people had a problem with this. There is a context here. We do need to not target, but to be aware of certain communities, and I won't apologize for saying that. The Sikh community is not one of them. These daggers are invariably blunted, often sewn into the very garment that's being worn. There's been, I can think of 2 attacks in the past 30 years in this country. One, a young man who was being bullied and pushed into a corner and trying to defend his life did withdraw this thing that was no defense, really. It is not an issue. And for the separatists to introduce this, you mentioned at the top of the show and this issue across the country. I don't think many Canadians are saying, well, I will sleep well tonight, but only if I know the Kirpan is being limited. It doesn't matter. The Sikh community is a model of Canadian pluralism and diversity. Why are we choosing this particular group to target? I don't understand the logic unless it is, frankly, just based on racism.
It's got nothing to do with racism.
Oh.
Come on. The point is that the World Sikh Organization, for it to come up to the Quebec National Assembly and make allies with the most radical Islamist groups over there, to suggest that they have come there to defend the right of women to cover their face, when the Sikh religion itself says that a face should never be covered. And that was the reason why the Muslim armies were slaughtering the Sikhs. I mean, we need to understand.
Tarek.
No, but the point is, nobody is talking about the subject. The Muslim members of the Sikh members of Parliament who suggest that this is ceremonial, somebody should ask them, what is the origin of this?
Why does that matter? Why is that relevant? It's not meant to kill Muslims now.
No, the point is lying matters. When you deceive someone by
So they're
saying,
all lying.
They're all lying. They're saying that
because they disagree with you, they're lying.
No, this was it was a weapon.
But it isn't now.
Then make it out of rubber or sponge.
They say that it's an article of faith. Even the Liberal leader,
not.
Michael Ignatieff, has backed Navdeep Bain, saying Kirpan shouldn't be allowed in all legislature. They're allowed here. The point is, once we've made allowances, as Michael Coren talks about with the RCMP, and we have Navdeep Bain wearing in the House of Parliament, why is this a problem?
Evan, the turban is not a dagger. That's so simple.
It caused more offence than the Kirpan.
I don't care about offence. You're being paternalistic, and by treating Sikhs as if they were children, to say we will not allow our sons and daughters to wear daggers to school, but you Sikhs, you are some sort of less developed people, and therefore you can
this
go.
is unacceptable. No, you're treating people like adults when you say to them you're not going to knife someone simply because you carry something that is intrinsic to your faith.
It doesn't matter. I am not going to sit here and say members of Parliament lie to say this has got nothing to do with weapon, when the fact remains that there was a justification in the 15th century for Sikhs to wear this weapon. And why don't they come up and say, what is the target of this? What is the ceremonial aspect of wearing a weapon? What is the context within which Muslims are subject to this law?
What is the ceremonial aspect of circumcision? Should we ban that too? You keep on talking, you talk about the 15th century.
You don't kill people.
Hold on a moment. If this was a parliament in the 15th century, then fine, there'd be an argument to ban it. It's not meant to attack Muslims. The very fact there's an alliance between, Islamic groups and Sikhs shows that. All they are saying is, why is it that a blunted piece of metal, and it's quite true.
Why should they wear it? Well, would you wear it?
No, that is not the argument. The argument is, why shouldn't they wear it?
Why should they wear it?
You're a very secular person.
No,
and what you're saying is, why should they wear it? When the question of anyone with any belief and respect for religion should be, they should be allowed to wear it unless there's a valid reason why they shouldn't be. Right. There is no harm done.
Tarek Fattah,
Michael, I'm not going to create religion at all.
Draw the line between a security issue, and the Bloc is saying this is a security issue, and religious freedom. Are you saying that it's not a security issue, that there are certain parts of religion that you think society can legislate what is an article of faith and what shouldn't be an article of faith?
Well, if you keep inventing one, you could. Why is it that the holy book of the Sikhs doesn't mention this? And the fact remains that everyone who's come up has denied that it was a weapon. Why aren't they not accepting the fact that in the 15th century this was a weapon? And if it is a symbol...
They haven't denied that.
Just one second. If it is a symbol, why can't they have made it out of cloth? Why not a rubber ducky type of a dagger? What exactly is the problem? If it is ceremonial, made it out of cloth.
Putting the rubber ducky aside for a few moments, the Trinity is not mentioned in the Bible either. The fact that it's not mentioned in the Holy Book is not relevant.
It's not a weapon.
It is a symbol of the faith. You keep talking about they deny it's a weapon. Any Sikh will tell you this is not very deep stuff. It was originally a weapon, but that was many hundreds of years ago. If we can document when there has been violence within the Sikh community, the Kirpan hasn't been used.
Are you serious?
It's been explosives. It's been bombs on planes that have been used.
It has swords and knives that have been used just last year.
It's not a sword. It's that big piece of metal, often invariably blunted. Why are you making this an issue?
It is an issue because it is an issue of common sense. What we're saying is that certain minorities are being allowed to be stupid, and because we are racial minorities, we will not be judged by the same standards that you judge
the normal white community. They're stupid, they're paternalistic. Can't people just disagree?
No, this is a weapon.
You're saying the word stupid. Now this is a question. Are we crossing the line and judging it? And those are pretty harsh words. I mean.
No, these are words.
I want you to think carefully. Is that really what you want to say about an article of faith of another religion?
No, I'm saying if the article of faith is being supported by non-members of that faith simply because it is decorative or because there's no rational reason. Right. If there was a discussion between Sikhs, I can understand. But when a Christian or a Muslim or a Hindu or a Zoroastrian is discussing, I want reason and rationalism.
Tarek, let me ask you this question.
Yes.
Muslims and Jews remove the foreskin of their male children.
They don't kill
Is
with the foreskin.
is that completely logical?
No, it's not.
Should it be banned?
No, because it is not harming anyone else.
There are many arguments that it does. I personally believe it's a religious right,
Well,
but there are many arguments. There are no arguments that Kirpan does any damage. The Bloc have said it's a security issue.
think the Lok Sabha-
You know that is nonsense.
All right,
Michael, the
before
point is-
go ahead, Tarek, because I want to know. Tarek Fattah, you would support the bloc motion to make sure Kirpans are not allowed in places like the Assemblée Nationale and even in the House of Parliament here?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that unless and until the Sikh community and its religious leadership says that it is a ceremonial dagger, therefore we'll make it out of cloth and wear it, because exactly the way the Punjab Assembly and the Indian Parliament does not allow it, the fact that somebody enters it is not an issue. But it is not allowed on Indian Airlines, in the
No
Lok Sabha.
aircraft.
No aircraft. So what is the ceremony?
And you've
end?
accused other people of being paternalistic. What you've just said is, learn your lesson, behave like other people. The community is a model, a model of Canadian pluralism. And what are we saying?
mean? The
And
others are not?
And your reward for that. There are many other communities.
What do you mean they have?
Tarek, let me finish the sentence.
on.
There are many other communities, yes, that are quite troubling. If we want to look at knife crime, we can name certain communities, but the Sikh community says we're a model of Canadian pluralism. Hold on a moment. And your response is, we're going to treat you like children and punish you. They admit it's a dagger.
Michael.
It's ceremonial.
Hold on, I
They
gotta
don't
put an
harm
end to
people
this.
with it. Leave them alone.
I got to put it in,
Michael,
but last word to Michael. Is the bloc motion, in your mind, picking on a religious community? Is it a sign of religious intolerance, or is it a legitimate concern about security?
The idea that it's a security issue is quite absurd. If we want to argue that groups should come into the modern world and change their ways, I disagree with that, but okay, at least there's some rationale behind that. There is no damage done by carrying the Kirpan. There are some people who still are offended by even seeing the turban, but that is their problem and not ours. It's not a relevant issue. There's no precedent or experience of it being a problem. And this all ties in to some in Quebec and their attitude towards Islam. And because they want to be seen as not picking on Muslims alone, they're targeting other groups as well. It's the idea of sort of reverse political correctness, and it's quite grotesque.
I've got to leave it there. A very interesting debate, and one that is clearly going on across the country as this bloc motion comes up. Michael, Coren, Tarek, Fattah, thank you so much for coming on today. Appreciate it.
Thank
you.
you.